wanted to thank you guys for showing up to this. So I hope that you're as excited as I am for this presentation. I am super excited because these are some of the smartest people that I know talking about AI, and I'm so happy that everyone is here. So this is AI for Growth Marketing, in case you went into the wrong class. The next event that we're going to have is going to be with Damian Dayton on August 22nd. So if you're not registered for that, please go check it out and join the Slopes Marketing chapter so you get all of our information about all of our events. All right, the first thing I want to do, biggest thanks, is to Ryan at Digital Summit for sponsoring our lunch. So thank you for our sandwiches, Ryan. Yes, and drinks. Ryan, if you could come up and tell everybody about Digital Summit for a minute, that would be awesome.
We'll make this one easy. Thanks, I'm excited to be here with you guys. Have been in the marketing industry for 20 plus years, probably like many of you guys. We founded Digital Summit really because I've seen a need in affiliate marketing or performance marketing. I've been doing affiliate marketing since the late 90s, kind of dating myself here a bit, but started the Ancestry affiliate program way back in the day, but have just loved performance marketing and what it can do. Really, I think it's about relationship marketing, hence why each of us are here today, right? Building these relationships. But it's really what makes a strong performing performance marketing initiative for each of you. So Digital Summit, we focus on primarily consumer packaged good products, but really we handle a lot of different things. We've done subscription work, we've done healthcare, we've done a lot of different things. So would love to answer any questions you guys may have. I've got cards here, but you can come up to me afterwards and find out more if you're interested. Thank you.
Now, for my awesome panel here, I'm just going to do the briefest of introduction to everybody and just let their work speak for themselves, and we can get into the real topic while everybody's here. But we have Ari Monkarsh from Marcor, a digital agency that really is pushing the limits of AI and what can be used to really push digital marketing forward. And then we have Rashay Drake from Journey Team, who is consistently using AI with her teams and training her teams on the best practices and efficiencies for AI. So she's really got a handle on it, especially for content marketing. And then we have Scott Harward for JX Strategy, who is also pushing the boundaries for what AI can do for development and for paid ad strategy. So he's doing a lot of really impressive stringing in new tools, and he's going to be able to tell you guys all about it. And then Eli Adams, you have probably maybe met before, a lot of you guys have, from Young Living, but Eli has also started the Digital Experience Academy and would love to tell you guys all about that as well. But I'm going to let Ari take the reins on leading this panel, and our very special guest is Alex. So we've created this AI panelist to be our surprise panelist, and Alex is a digital marketer that has been working with Marcor for more than 5 years. We are going to feed her a lot of the prompts for these questions today. So if we want to have a perspective from AI on what the questions that we're going to ask today, we're going to ask Alex, and she's going to share with us her thoughts on how AI is changing our industry.
How you guys doing today? You guys excited to learn about AI? I'm pretty excited about that. I'm really excited about Eli's Beard Club for Men. I just wanted to point that out because April missed that part, but I think that's impressive. Alex, I'll give a little bit of a background. I'll probably lean to Scott more from a technical of how it got done, but I think that's worthwhile. I will tell everybody we were playing with it before. We gave it specific instructions not to go too far off topic because she can get a little long in the tooth when it comes to answering some individual questions. So you'll notice if you were watching before, she brings it right back all the way back to the marketing side of the question. So we'll make sure to keep that reined in. But Scott, do you want to tell us at all anything about her background, how she was created?
Yeah, so Alex is actually more on the cutting edge of AI and the integrations with AI. We've all heard about ChatGPT and GPT-4 and the technology that's been coming out there. But where a lot of the cool technologies that are coming out with AI are the integrations with AI. So ChatGPT is really cool, but it's also only trained on data from 2021. That's as far as the knowledge goes. But we obviously have up-to-date topics that we could use learning language models for. So Alex is actually an integration of multiple technologies where it has access to Google Search, has access to a vector database that has been pre-fed with resources that are relevant to the topics today, and also the different prompting techniques in order to make it so we get relevant information. So AI is really at a breakthrough, and Alex is at the point where we finally have some of those tools available at no code, so you don't have to be an engineer or a developer in order to access these tools. So it's pretty cool that we're finally able to introduce a chatbot that is able to access these in time for this panel.
And did I hear right that Alex actually used her own set of AI tools to create her own avatar and what she looks like and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, so Alex actually named herself. So I asked ChatGPT to decide on a name and give a background. We actually have another document with all of Alex's hobbies and specialties, and that was all created and by the AI itself. So really, we just said, you're a digital marketer, give yourself a name. Gave itself its name. We're like, okay, tell us about yourself. And that's how we were able to develop the personality of Alex.
I think you made it kind of quasi-Irish with a Mackay last name.
Yes.
That was great.
That was
I appreciated
my
that
own
touch.
personal edition.
Yeah, and Alex actually made the picture of herself too. So
Yeah.
we asked Alex to give a prompt to be able to put into Midjourney, and then put that prompt into Midjourney, and that's how we got the picture of Alex.
Alex can be found on LinkedIn too, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Alex can be found on LinkedIn. She created her own LinkedIn profile. She'll be continuing to post regularly on there and available for questions on LinkedIn as time continues to go on. She'll also have a bunch of resources that she'll be pushing out after this meeting that you guys will see from the panelists here. So super fun stuff. I think that probably most of the people can join me from being excited about seeing that and absolutely horrified that she could take everything, that she could do everything herself without needing us anymore. But that's kind of why we're here, right? We're going to talk about making sure that that we still have a place in this crazy AI world. All right, so there's a lot of topics we could talk about in AI. We sketched out as a panel, probably close to 10 or 12, narrowed that down a little bit. But if you guys wouldn't mind, I'm going to go through a little bit more what we're going to talk about today. But this is a live forum. If you guys wouldn't mind grabbing your phones, and instead of us just talking here about all the different tenets of marketing, let's boil it down to 3 things, right? So grab the form, we'll look at what the responses are live, and then those are the things that we'll talk about. Does that make sense? Let me know if anybody can't go ahead and get it. The things that we're going to probably cover on here, and I'll go through some of these just so while you guys are filling out that form as well. What's the role of the marketer in today's world for AI? I think that's probably a common question that I'd like to hear a bunch of the responses, and I got the power of getting the advance warning on some of the responses. That'll be good for everybody. How do we go ahead and level up the human capability using AI, right? So what are the tools that are out there? How do we do that? And how does it, how can you really have an impact to the business? I think, the big thing for me is that this needs to be a practical workshop, right? The goal would be for us all to continue to prompt the smart people we have on stage to give us, and if we don't do it or there's something that we need afterwards, that we can reach out to any one of us and we'll be happy to track it down. But a series of practical applications that we can use utilizing AI to do something for marketing for our business, for whatever channel, whatever you focus on, that would be the goal. So you're just not here coming in for free lunch, although it's good and free, but you will go ahead and hopefully walk away with 2 or 3 practical applications for AI that everybody can use. Let me go back up because I just jumped. Anything else you want to add? Whoa, we got a lot of responses. Good.
As much as I would very much love love to nerd and geek out about AI for an hour.
We
I
could.
want everyone to walk away with what you came in for.
Okay, this is a really big microphone. It's awkward, so if you see it moving a lot, it's mostly just because it's just really big and awkward in my face. All right, we got 27 responses so far. Anybody still midstream we're waiting for? John, are you still filling out your form? I submitted mine. All right, just checking. All right, so it looks like we have a couple of these that are pretty heavy. All right, so data and analytics is one. We as a team are going to opt into security, safety, and ethics, as the team felt pretty strongly about that. So we're going to have that on there. So we have data and analytics, website UI, UX optimization, and email marketing. Okay. That was a super close race with paid ads and organic social. Okay, perfect. Hey, they were all next to each other. I wonder if that has anything to do with it. Anyway, okay. Who wants to start with, you know what would be a good idea? I heard some great things from you on website UI, UX, and how you're utilizing that and utilizing AI to improve that process. So maybe you want to start there.
Yeah, so I'll give you a couple examples of how I've used it with my personal stuff as well as some of my coaching clients. So gone are the days where you need to actually know code to make it work, right? To make your website look good. So one example is, so I build a lot of websites on WordPress, and I use the Divi theme. If you haven't used the Divi theme on WordPress and you're new to building a website, it's one of the easiest themes you can possibly use. Where you literally like drag and drop stuff. It's super easy. But they have a section that is custom CSS. And so what I did is I wanted this one of these buttons to match my brand color. And then when I hovered over it, I needed it to change colors and show a little icon. And so what I did is I right-clicked and I inspected element on Chrome, and I just went and copied it and pasted that code into ChatGPT and said, here's what I'm trying to do. So I gave it a prompt. I said, here's the code that I currently have. I need some custom CSS to make it this color, and I gave it the hex code, right? And said, here's the first color, here's the hex code for the second color. Here's what I need it to do. When you hover over it, I need it to have a shade in the background. Give me that code. And it spit out the code, and it just pushed one button at the top right, copied it, went to the custom CSS section of Divi, pasted it, refresh, and it was beautiful. And then I said, actually, I need rounded corners. I need it to be a little bit bigger. I need it to work on mobile at this size, tablet at this size. And I just went back and kept prompting it to get exactly what I needed, and it kept spitting out perfect CSS that made it look beautiful. So there's all sorts of different ways that you can use it, but you can have it teach you what to do. So you're like, hey, I have a WordPress website and I want to do this. And it'll say, here's where you go and find the CSS to change. Here's what I'd recommend you put in. So even if you don't know where to go, just ask it, have that conversation, and it'll teach you where to go, or it'll send you somewhere to learn how to do it. But it's pretty basic now. Where I remember, 15 years ago, I built my first website. Raise your hand if you've built a website before. How many of you took 15 to 25 hours making sure your logo was perfect before doing anything else, right? So I remember 15 years ago, I had this beautiful logo, and I went to upload it, and it was like this teeny tiny little thing. And I spent like 14 days trying to just Google, what is the code? How do I change this? At that time, I didn't really have the network I have now where I could just reach out and ask somebody, what do I do? We don't need to do that anymore. Just ask your buddy Alex or whatever you want to call your ChatGPT. But it lends well to having a good user experience. And yeah, either way, that's the story you're probably thinking of, right?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. So in summary, continue to ask it questions. Just speak plain English to it, right? And no special coding needed, right? No special system, no special AI needed.
Yeah, and sometimes it did come back, like I would hit save and nothing would happen, and I would go back and say, hey, this didn't work. Can you fix this? I'll give you one more practical example, and maybe this, what's it called? I'm going to brag a little bit real quick. So my wife and I just launched a children's mental health book on Amazon. So go look for Lucy Tames Her Tiger. Just a little plug. Go look for that. Buy it right now. And then after you buy it, I'll finish what I'm saying. No, I'm just teasing. So when you go in and you go to you optimize your description with Amazon, there's a source code section. And I copied the description. I had AI help me write the description, but then I put it back in and I said I need this one bolded, and then I need bullet points here, and I had this place where underneath the bullet points, it kept breaking and it wouldn't give me a space in between. And so I just kept asking. I said, here's what it's doing, here's what I need, and it tried the space button first, then I'd go on Amazon and it wouldn't work, and then it tried the line break button and it did work. And so it took me a few times to keep going back and forth and saying, why isn't this working? And I finally got it to work where it put the spaces where I needed it, the bolds where I needed it, and I didn't have to use Amazon's interface to do it. I just copied and pasted the whole code with a description, and it was real fast. So there's just one more example.
That's fantastic. I appreciate that. Scott, you have anything you wanted to add on the UX UI side?
Yeah, you can use it to really help out and just speed up the process. Recently, I launched an attribution software for marketing about 3 years ago, and I was doing a lot of the coding myself, and it was taking a long time. And at one point, I needed to learn JavaScript to be able to write a tracking script, and I put at least 40 hours into writing about 30 lines of code for just something that stores a cookie and makes it so you can track the user and be able to submit it to a database and whatnot. And it took me a long time. Well, about 3 weeks ago, I was like, I wonder how quickly GPT could do this. So I put it in, I told it what I wanted it to do, and within 30 seconds, it almost looked word for word like the code that took me 40 plus hours to create. And it definitely helped speed things up a ton, and been using that to be able to help speed the user experience for some of our websites and identify the problems.
Thank you. Any examples?
So full disclosure, Journey Team is a Microsoft partner, so some of the things you're going to hear from me today are very related to Microsoft. So full disclosure, I like to be transparent. We recently implemented a tool. Microsoft has what it calls Microsoft Clarity. It's an alternative to Hotjar or Lucky Orange. So your analytics, your heat maps, recordings, that type of thing. And they've introduced, you've probably heard of Copilot. They've introduced Copilot to Microsoft Clarity. It's free. It always will be. They make a big fuss about telling you that it will always be free, and we know what that means. It means they want to know how people are experiencing our websites, right? But we've implemented this on our website, and so we were able to see by bringing up Copilot that, oh, hey, people are running into this issue occasionally on this page. Let's dive deeper into that. And so instead of being like, oh, there's these dead clicks, let's track it down, it was just immediately, goes through and tells you, this user came here, they ran into this, and then we tracked down an issue really easily, and it was awesome. So that's how we've been using it, and it's been really helpful. And then again, I'm sorry, Microsoft person. I use the Edge browser, which I know is like a cardinal sin, but they've integrated Bing Chat into that. So you can start checking out websites using that browser extension, and I like it just because it's right there. It's right where I need to be. Since they took out the browser extension to ChatGPT-4, if you were using that, Bing Chat is that in the Edge extension, so it's super helpful that way. It's your internet-connected GPT-4.
So the moral of the story on the UI UX is keep trying, right? Save time using AI, and it's simple, and everybody can do it. Right? I think that's the takeaway, and we'll leave any more if you guys have additional ones on that one in the QA. Anything else anybody wants to add on this topic before we jump off? Okay.
I don't on this topic, but I'm curious to know raise your hand if you use AI at all right now in your jobs. I'm curious to know, just the audience. Okay, keep your hands up if you think you're proficient, on a scale of 1 to 10, 6 and up. So there's a handful of people who use it quite a bit, and there's some newbies, it sounds like. So I'm impressed that most of you have used it before, though, so that's great. Good on you.
All right, what do we have as number 2? What was our second topic? Let's do data and analytics. Scott, I'm going to lead off with you, because you spent obviously a lot of time in this space.
Yeah, so AI is just barely reaching a point where we're going to be able to use it within analytics and to be able to analyze data much quicker. One of the big problems that we've had of being able to use AI to analyze analytics from a non-development standpoint. Obviously, if you're a developer, data scientist, they've been using this for years. But for us as regular folk trying to use AI, we haven't been able to. And one of the big reasons is we've been limited by the number of characters we're able to put in. There previously haven't been any connecting or integrations for us to be able to feed in data. But right now, we're starting to see that shift. Now that everyone's started to accept language learning models or large language models as here to stay, you're starting to see all these integrations and all these connections starting to come in. Where now you're going to be able to start connecting your SQL databases, your BigQuery databases, Google Analytics. There's a new startup called Hawk.ai that we've been experimenting with, where they take a cool concept of where you're able to. It's a platform that keeps track of your marketing platforms, and what it will do is it'll take what's on your screen and it will send it to a large language model and have it analyze your dashboard that you're looking at right there. And it looks for trends, it looks for anything that's going up, what's going down. It'll actually provide recommendations. And so it's really cool to see how pretty soon here we're going to be able to have AI analyze a lot of the data that we would normally have to export into a spreadsheet, go do functions, make our own decisions of like, oh, what's important, what's not important, do the formatted text to see what's green and what's red in order to spot any changes. But pretty soon here, we're going to be able to use large language models in order to do a lot of that work for us. And that will massively speed up our productivity, and it'll also make it so as humans, we miss things, we miss patterns sometimes. But AI will be able to pick up on those patterns and describe to us what's happening if we give it enough context.
Now, what was the setup process like to get Hawk AI going? Was it a significant lift? Was it a significant cost?
So it's going to, I imagine their cost is going to go up. Right now we're just in a beta and we were testing them out. So we currently are no cost with them, but I think they're going to charge a percentage of media spend that's tracked. But for them, it was just as simple as connecting our Google Ads account, connecting our Facebook Ads account. It was like a regular BI dashboard where you connect it, it's a plug and play, and then they've already built in the AI into the dashboard. So there wasn't really anything technical that we needed to do as marketers in order to make that happen.
And how deep was the intelligence you got back on that? Like, give us an example of a tough question that you would normally have to dig around for data on that it just whizzed through, both saving time and solving a problem.
Yeah, so on this one, it was pretty surface level at the moment because they had just barely launched it, just barely experimenting with it to see what it can do. But pretty soon, if we have some fine-tuned models or some fine-tuned instructions for it, where it has a knowledge base to pull from, and then give recommendations from that knowledge base, pretty soon we'll be able to see those. We'll be able to see those recommendations start coming back pretty quick and being a lot deeper. Because imagine if AI had access to not only your data, but was able to analyze your image, analyze your headlines, analyze your descriptions, and look at it based off the data and provide some recommendations. Here are 3 alternatives of how you can modify this ad in order to increase click-through rate. Here are some alternatives of what you can do to increase the ROAS. Here's how you could change your bid. We've noticed that costs have scaled greatly over the past 3 days, but it turns out that that's because of weather. Because if let's say you were to plug it into a weather database, for some clients I've had and some companies I've worked for, weather greatly impacted sales. And they constantly were asking me, well, was this weather? What was this? Was this a competitor? And honestly, to answer that question, it was hours and hours of digging through data, collecting data. But pretty soon here, we'll have that data fed into the AI, and it will be able to figure a lot of that out for us.
Eli, do you have any applications you can share with us?
Oh, not
the analytics
as
side?
not as intense as that. But I'll tell you a few ways that I've used it. It's sort of a workaround, not necessarily plugging into some of these tools, but I use it a lot when I go and analyze Search Console data. So I'll export the Search Console data for some clients, and then I'll look at all the keywords, and I'll grab the keywords and put it into the chat and say, put these into categories, and give specific recommendations. I can't think of prompts right now, but I use it to help with like spreadsheet formulas and to categorize different keywords. And I mean, some clients you guys have worked with, I'm sure they have thousands of keywords that are ranking, and it's too much to go through all of them, right? And so you can copy and paste a lot of that stuff in the spreadsheet format into ChatGPT, and it'll analyze a lot more. And in fact, the what's it called, the code analyzer, code interpreter, right? You can like actually upload files now to the code interpreter. So there's some pretty amazing things you can do. Again, they're a little bit more workaround than plugging in. I think this is the way of the future, what Scott's talking about. But if you're intimidated by doing that, it's easy to just grab the data from analytics or Search Console and plug it into ChatGPT and get what you want from there.
I appreciate that. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I definitely recommend using the code interpreter if you're on the subscription for ChatGPT. Go, and if you're curious about what it can do, go grab some census data, download a table, throw it in there, and let it rip. It will call out insights for you if you have something specific you're looking for, or you can just tell me what's interesting about this, and it will start to populate that data for you. And if you're like, oh, that's really interesting, you can then tell it, now make me a chart, make me a graph, make me split the data up this way and tell me this, and it will start to do that for you. It's really fascinating, and I definitely recommend going with census data first, just because it's publicly out there and it's totally fine to throw in there. So that's what I would say about that. We were finding some really awesome stuff on our team where it was just like, I wish I was more of a data analyst. That is not a gift that I was given, but being able to call out insights within 3 minutes of uploading a file into it was awesome for our team.
I share that with you about not being a data analyst, but I have an uncanny ability to find misspellings. I don't know what that means, but it's just there.
We all
So-
have our strengths, right?
So here's a question for you guys on the analytics side. So same situations that I'm sure many people here struggle with on the human side is what validation, what are you guys looking at to make sure the data is right? To make sure that it's drawing the right interpretations and conclusions as that scales and what you guys are doing. If you guys run into anything like that was just massively wrong and just glaring, or found something after the fact before, right? Usually in my experience, 5 minutes before the client presentation, where someone in your team says, "Oh heck," and then the number's wrong, and then you got to figure it out. But how do you verify and validate that on the AI side?
Gut feeling. I don't. That's the wrong. I don't know.
Clean living and
I
prayer.
Clean
I
living
know
and prayer,
that.
that's right.
I know that
That's
some of the
my-
prompts that you do give. Have you guys all heard? Raise your hand if you've heard of the lawyer who used ChatGPT and then found out that it was like made up data, right, or something, and so he got busted. Sorry, what was it? Yeah, just like made up cases to prove a point. So if you're doing something very important, make sure. Like I did a prompt that said like, write this description and put a quote in it, and I said make sure it's from a real person that actually said the quote. Don't just like make up a quote and say it's by whatever Alex, but. Either so you do have to be. It's an area you have to be aware of, that it might spin the data in a way that you're telling it to spin it, which may not be as accurate as the client sees it.
My 16-year-old did that for a book report once, but that's another story.
Yeah. Something to keep in mind is that AI in its current state is not smarter than a human. And it does require direction. Anybody who's done the prompts, you realize the better you get at prompts, the better the output you get. It's also a very similar concept of as a business leader when you're trying to tell a developer what you want. Sometimes you have to be very specific, and if you are very specific, they'll also give you exactly what you ask, rather than what you intended to ask. But that's where I think as we're moving into this, especially, we'll need to continue to use our traditional tools of dashboards and whatnot. in order to make sure that what we are doing is accurate. And then also any type of higher level brain activity, you'll need to make sure that the AI is outputting the correct response. It's good at math, but it's not good at all math. It's good at problem solving, but it's not good at complex problems. We're just not there yet.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember the importance of data hygiene, right? Like, we collect so much data, and I wish I could tell you a percentage of what I think is useless, but like, it depends on a case-by-case basis. Not all data is applicable to every use case that we have for it, so I think it's really important to make sure that the data you're starting with is clean, it's recent, it has the things you need in it, and maybe cut it down, scale out some of the garbage, so that, you know, test it both ways and then kind of verify so that you can trust but verify and find what works and be like, oh, actually the thing I thought I didn't need, I actually needed in there because it made for a better data set in the end. So I would say trust but verify.
That's fair. All right, I'm gonna, yeah, go ahead.
I think that goes, like, that is the golden rule, I think, period, in data analytics, right? It's just the same as it always has been. It's the CRM rule is bad data in, bad data out, good data in, good data out. And that directly applies to what you're putting into AI, because it's only, right now, at least, it's only going off what we're putting into it, just like the same data that you're pulling from your CRM is only going to feed you back what you're putting into it. So our role as marketers is the same that it always has been, in that we need to be feeding in good data, good information, and be the ringleader of this, essentially, to be able to get the most accurate information out of it. And then you've got to be able to eyeball and see what doesn't make sense and go back and verify, just like Shay's saying.
I'm going to use this because you guys jumped a little bit, which is great. So I'm going to use this to actually, we're going to leave the third topic alone for a minute, just on time, but I'm going to come to what I think from feedback that I got from talking to people before the event, that first question up there. So everybody here, it sounds like almost everybody, it was everybody, right? That raised their hand? That they've at least, yeah, okay, so let's just say everybody, okay? That everybody's played with AI at some point for their job, for personal, for marketing in some form or another, right? So assuming that, and assuming that on one side we have everybody's learning something new, everybody's trying something new, everybody's trying to find the application for themselves to what television and YouTube and TikTok are telling us is that every single marketer and human is going to be replaced at some point by AI. So what does that look like? Right? I'd love to hear your feedback to answer that question. Right? What is the role of the marketer with AI growing as fast as it is? Right? Jump across, and let's start this way this time. So we have a little, change it up. But what do you see that from your perspective?
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember that right now the AI we're using today is the worst AI we're ever going to use. It's only going to get better from here, right? So right now it's like,
until tomorrow, that'll be the worst AI we're ever going to use.
Exactly. So I think right now the way I think of it, the evolving role as I see is less of me implementing and more of me strategizing. Like in the end, because we are marketers, we are selling to humans, we still need to keep that human element. And maybe AI will get to that point where it's got us nailed down because we are just algorithms at some point. But for me, I'm like, it's how we utilize it, because there are people who just, we know them. They go to ChatGPT, they throw something in, they copy it, they don't even take out that it was made by ChatGPT, and then they throw that up, and that's good for them. And that gives the people who are strategists and building out what their vision, but they're using AI to build out their vision. I think that's where we're going, where we are relied upon for the vision, and we know the role, we know people, that's what we're building, and AI is just the tools to help us connect with people.
Did you just admit that we're in the matrix? Because
Yes.
we are an
I
algorithm.
thought I picked up on that.
100%
okay.
yes.
Ones and zeros.
Just checking.
Scott, you want to go next?
Yeah. When I think about the future of AI, I think of the path that we've already been going. About 4 years ago, I had a Google rep ask me, he's like, what is going to be the role of agencies? How is it going to evolve? And my response to him was, agencies are going to have to become more and more thought leaders and strategists. We've been seeing tools already being developed. Google's going this way, Facebook is going this way, where they're automating a lot of the buttons. marketers are no longer going to be button pushers. We're going to have to be thought leaders, and we're going to have to be strategists. It's less about back in the 90s when we had to do time of day adjustments, audience adjustments, every single little adjustment you can think of. It's less about the nitty gritty of making all these little itty bitty changes, and more about thinking about who is the audience, guiding the AI, guiding the tools, combining tools, making sure that everything is going well. You're going to be much more of a driver rather than a mechanic. And that's the way I see it. And that's kind of, if in my career, I've always made it a point to utilize automation where I can. And I used to say I do the work of 7 marketers. Because a lot of the stuff I found ways to do it a lot quicker, and time-wise, I was a very, very efficient marketer. With AI, it now democratizes the automation and makes it easier for everyone to automate. It makes it easier for everyone to be able to speed up and be more productive. And that's where, as marketers, there's going to be less and less room, or there's going to be less and less of a need for people who are only wanting to just take instructions and push levers. We're going to need to evolve and make sure that we're thought leaders and guiding the strategy behind each of our brands and anything that we're working with.
If you believe AI is going to take your job, you're not using it enough. So you should figure out a way to capitalize on how to use AI to 10 times the amount that you give to your client. Right? So raise your hand if you've ever been in a position where you're like, I'm doing so much, I need another person to help me out. Everybody should raise their hand, right? How many have made the case to HR to say, I need another person to help me out? Like almost everybody, right? So you have this extension now that allows you to do what you said, 5 to 7 times the amount of work that you've been doing. So just do that for your client. You don't need to charge them more. Just output 5 times the amount. And if you're worried about losing your job at that point, then there's probably nothing we can do. But like I imagine, I mean, they may at some point, AI may at some point take our job. But John, you brought up the other day the analogy of the tractor, right? Where when the tractor came out, all of the people who were working in the fields were worried about their job because now one person could do what 10 to 100 people had to do in the past. But we evolved, right? So we're in the matrix and evolution. You can see where you guys sit on this. We evolve, right? So as marketers, we need to evolve in the same way. We need to be able to look at this as the next tractor, and are we going to be the ones driving the tractor, or are we going to be the ones saying, well, government should regulate AI or whatever and shut it down and be on the other side? Like, do 5 times the amount for your clients. They'll be 5 times as happy, and instead of increasing their monthly spend with you, they'll stick around for 5 more years than they normally would because you're delivering quality to them.
And just like we've seen that lawyer cite non-existent case law, I think we'll also see at some point in the next few years, we're going to see somebody who tried to automate everything and they just dumped massive amounts into their paid spend or something because they let AI run it. And again, bad data in, bad data out. Well, we're just going to let the AI do it. I think that's going to happen at some point. And if it doesn't happen in the next, I'll say 2 years, and I'll buy somebody coffee.
It probably already has happened.
Yeah, and I think we've seen a little bit of that by letting the Google AI and the automation. Scott would probably share some war stories on that one, letting that go and just taking every recommendation it gives, and then all of a sudden it can only find 2 people to buy your product, right? So they're already sort of seeing situations like that, and it probably, to your point, get a lot worse. All right, 12:40. I'm jumping on time because I know that we want to leave some time for some QA as well. I'm going to jump over to email marketing. You want to start on that one? How have you used AI to really, shorten that gap for your day-to-day?
Yeah, absolutely. So with my team, I joke that we work for 5 companies because we work for consultants and they each specialize in one thing. And so we have to market for all of those. So we've been using AI to kind of find out the pain points, really expedite that process of pain points, where they have that pain and what content would be useful for them to move further along the funnel, right? So we've been using it to find pain points, map out the nurture stages, and then also create the content for those. And we've been noticing that Microsoft, they've been implementing more stuff into their email marketing so that we can use personalization tokens, and Copilot will like automatically add things specific to that person or that contact within there. Like beyond, we all know names stuff and that type of thing, but like they downloaded this or they did this, and so it can reference, hey, I know we've been talking about this, and then we can continue that conversation from the marketing standpoint and reference that. So that's how we're using it right now, and I think it'll only get better. They're actually working on making a natural language. You tell it the type of nurture campaign you want, and then it will create that nurture for you. And again, we're going to definitely verify that. I'm not just going to trust anything out of the box ever. But it's nice to skip those steps of like, now I have to click this button, and now I have to click this button. I'm just hopeful it will expedite us.
What's the how on that journey map, though? Is it just drop it into ChatGPT and say, hey, make a journey? Is it?
No. It's the process is we define our audience, right? And we help it define our audience and what their pain points are. Then we ask it for ideas, and then we cherry pick which ideas we think make the most sense. And I have used it to also collect survey data, because I'm like, survey data from 2020 and 2021 is still very valid to me, and then we double check that it's, it's accurate. Usually if it's Verizon or something like that, then we are like, great. Then we start creating it, and we use ChatGPT to help us with parts of that. And then we add those little tweaks in that are the human element, because it's so much easier to edit something and be like, oh no, you totally got this wrong. And then you're having fun because you got to tell the AI it's wrong, and then you get to make it better. So it's like, you get that, I got 80% faster, but also I still made sure that it's something I'm willing to send to like 2,000 people today.
Scott?
Where I see AI going, I don't focus heavily on the email portion of marketing, but where I see it going is a much more greater detail of the ability to customize emails for the person, and start to deliver more personalized recommendations rather than logic statements. We'll be able to start to actually analyze each customer and be able to provide relevant recommendations to them and be able to send it to their inbox, and it will be a unique email for them. It won't just be a blast out to everyone type of email. Also, where I see it being extremely helpful is for the teams that don't have a ton of copywriters. Being able to speed up that process is amazing. Me personally, I'm not the best writer. I'm very logical. I'm not very good at tapping into the emotions in my writing. I'm good at stating facts, and one thing that I've been using the AI for, I've been using a tool called Jasper, is I tell it to rewrite my copy and make it a lot more engaging. And a lot of the times it does better than I can. But I'm obviously able to spot the content that isn't going to work out so well. And so I definitely use my judgment. But for small teams especially, this becomes a game changer, because you're able to produce a lot more content that can get approved and be able to be used when we're stretched for time and when we have a lot on our plate. So it's going to be able to upscale the email capacities, both personalization and being able to generate it in the first place.
Eli, what do you think?
Yeah, so I love using it to map out the journey, just like you were saying, Shay, and using the data to personalize based on the different tags that your people have. But one of my favorite ways to use ChatGPT in email marketing is I'll go to Amazon and I'll search for email marketing books, and I'll look at the ones with the most reviews, and then I'll type in ChatGPT and say, pull out the 13 rules from this book by this author. And it pulls it out and says, here are the 13 rules. And then I say, here's my audience, which we've already discussed. Here's the journey that we're doing. Now write email 1 based on these 13 rules that it talks about in that book, and then it writes it. And there's some prompts you have to use after that. You have to like tone it down a little bit and say, now make it readable by an 8th grader, right? And now break it up into some bullet points and smaller smaller paragraphs. A lot of times, like in email marketing, you want less than like 25 words per like paragraph, so they can skim it if they want, and you want the most important up at the top. And so you have to break it down a little bit more beyond that. But that way you can test different authors' theories or tactics or whatever. And this is really good in the sales field. If any of you do sales or sales emails specifically, there's really good sales books out there for email marketing. I sent one of the prompts. I've sent 4 prompts to my brother-in-law. and he works at Weave, and he's like, this is life-changing to be able to use these prompts rather than just ones that he just made up on his own. So either way, I think that's a really fun way to prompt some different email marketing tactics and wording. So, yeah.
So for practical application, 2 things to call out. Number 1, the 8th grader comment, right? So that it can be understood by an 8th grader is a big deal, both for creating content for the websites, creating content for email, anything that is going to be that humans are planning to engage with at some point. That's box number 1. Box number 2, how does it change? It didn't change.
I know. If I could only get AI to fix like my inability to like make tech work for
Clap
me,
on?
then
Nope,
it'd
no
be
more.
golden.
For those that are looking for prompts, that's the other thing, right? If the search for prompts are the key. People have already spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to get the information out and how to get AI to do what it wants. Discord. If you guys are not on the it's OpenAI, right? Yeah. OpenAI Discord channel. There are prompts galore with new stuff being added all the time. The other one is, has anybody here been to futurepedia.io? You guys have heard what that is? Thanks, Kelly. Appreciate that. It is a plethora of all sorts of tools. I will tell you it's got some stuff. Don't look at the chaos.io one unless you want to lose sleep for a couple of days. It has the really good AI tools and broken down for pretty much all parts of marketing, but it does show some of the nastier ones you hear about on the news that'll just scare the crap out of you. But, you know, they're always fun to watch. But futurepedia.io.
Can I talk about that one?
Yeah, go for it.
So that one's a directory, and it has 4,600 different AI tools. So if you're like, hey, I'm working on email marketing or SEO or videos, you just go and do a search for videos, and then you can filter by paid versus free versus trial. There's all sorts of things you can do. But if you've ever wondered, like, I wonder if there's an AI for this. And I'll tell you, 3 months ago, there was less than 1,000 in there. So they're constantly adding more.
9 today.
9 more added
Yeah,
today?
9 more today. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, so futurepedia.io.
Yep.
Bookmark it, use it. It's awesome.
Learningprompt.org. This will all be in the presentation. How do we can make sure that Alex puts this out on her LinkedIn?
That actually, and you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'll share anything that you have further questions on and give you the entire resource list, so you guys can keep it for your own resources. And I've also got it divided between, like, if you're a beginner and you just want to learn prompting, go here. If you're needing to dig in more, if you want to go into different specialties, then you guys can reach out to me and I'll share it all. And Alex will be sharing little bits on LinkedIn as well.
Okay. David, do we need to do something else to make the TVs working? So I just figured I'd shout out to you on that one.
I must have.
Must have. All right. I think what was next on that while you're... it says it's still connected. Okay. I think next on the agenda, we were going to go through QA before we wrap and did networking cleanup. So I guess if you guys have anything else to add, I would love to get just one more practical thing in there if we have some time. Maybe just give us, each of you, the name of 3 or 4 tools, right? I know that we've got the I/O and we've got Discord, but what are the 3 things that come to mind besides ChatGPT that are, you know, part of your daily, right? That everybody who's learning or at any level of AI can jump right in and just make an impact. Eli, you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, Futurepedia was mine, so
That's
I don't.
fair. All right,
took
fine.
it
You
from
get
me,
credit for
but
that one.
If you don't know of a good tool and Futurepedia doesn't have it, ask ChatGPT what AI tool is out there.
That's fair.
Right.
Scott, you got any?
Yeah, my 2 favorite tools are Jasper.ai, and then also another one called Stack AI. So Stack AI, you're able to do a logic sequence, and you're able to combine. That's how we created Alex, though we had technical difficulties. But you're able to combine different technologies, databases, and run it through a logic. So you can actually create a full process where do this prompt, grab this data, do this prompt, grab this data, and you can have it walk through a whole series and provide a full output. So those 2 are my favorite.
I did think of 2 more. Sorry.
Okay.
You want to go first? I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
I didn't even start, so you can continue.
Okay. Now I forgot it. Notion. Notion is a really good one. Notion's like a note-taking platform, kind of like Notes. What's the other one? What's the Microsoft one? It's like OneNote, but it does have an AI component to it as well. Notion is one, and Otter is another one that you can connect to your like Google calls and Zoom calls, and it transcribes the whole entire call, and then the AI at the end will output the takeaways that came from the call that you can basically copy and paste and send to your clients or whoever you were on the call with. So it takes a lot of notes in that way. It's pretty awesome.
We've used Supernormal for that one, and that actually was a pretty great product. Got a little pricey for the team, but it looks like there's some other ones out there that don't require that much of an initial investment.
So a couple of mine are, as I said before, like Microsoft Clarity was a big one that I really enjoyed. Also Midjourney for images, it's phenomenal, and the most recent engine is Unreal. You used to have to be really good at your prompting, and now you can throw in a basic prompt.
What is that one?
Midjourney. It's
Midjourney.
for image creation, and it's great. Like I was making stock images with it, and I was like, this is so much better than what I could find on like Getty or something. So I love that one. And then one that I've used for a long time is called Writer Zen. It's for your SEO type stuff. It will automatically find kind of it has what it calls a golden filter. So it finds that low-hanging fruit of like, stuff good opportunities. And so it also has a writer. I don't love the writer, but for finding those golden opportunities for SEO and topic lookup type stuff, big one for me.
Right Sonic is another one that our email team is using incessantly, and they have had a lot of success with that one on creating that content. And then the other one we played with was a couple weekends ago, John, was Wonder, and that created some great image, the multi-dimensional, right? Put foreground, background, was amazing to see. Didn't spend enough time with the prompts. That's where I've got to go play with that one a little bit more, but the first round was pretty impressive.
Nice. I'm gonna have to check that one out. I also really want to check out Runway because I've heard phenomenal things about that. You can take an image and then turn it into a short video or GIF. So that's a good one.
Nice. Courses, finally got the slide up. I think we probably could keep going for a while, but I think we want to leave a little bit of time for QA.
Yeah, we can skip over it.
Okay, so in the back, gentlemen.
You bet, it's Albert. Thanks, guys. Really super useful. A couple questions. I believe Scott, right there. Scott, for analytics, I think you mentioned the ability of using AI tools to maybe integrate with tools like Click or Tableau and so forth. So I think when it comes to analytics, is for the customer, for the client, is they don't know what they don't know, right? So what are some of those things that are available, and where are we at in the spectrum of truly having useful tools that can just connect with those data tools and provide insights into customers?
Yeah, on the analytics side, we're not quite there yet in terms of like getting into the databases and having those useful queries. We're probably about 6 months out. Recently, it's the very first tool that I've seen that integrates in with the SQL database. Obviously, if you're a developer, you can tap into a whole slew of libraries at this point, and you can integrate in that data a lot. But for us non-developers, the tools are just barely coming out that are making all those connections. So we're not quite there yet, but pretty soon we'll have the tools out where you can ask it for what type of data you're looking for, and it will automatically come up with the query for the SQL database or the BigQuery database or whatever database you're looking for. It'll come up with the query, and it will query it for you and bring in the data. And so we're pretty close, but we're not quite there yet. Especially I think where it will explode is when GPT launches their. They actually are working on a 60,000 token model. I think that's where we'll see a lot of the data and analytics explode, is when they release that version of GPT-4.
And Scott's one of the best sharers that I know. So if you literally just set a reminder and reach out to him January 1st, right, or January 2nd.
Hey, Scott, it's been 6 months.
Yeah, Scott, it's been 6 months. He'll share with you everything he's learned in the past 6 months. So, who else got a question?
In the back there.
Yes.
So
That's a good question. Shay, you want to take that one first?
Sure, yeah. Yes. So the question was, what are some of the, sorry, say it one more time, because like I've already started answering in my head.
There's ChatGPT prompt-based.
Right.
And then there's a variety of tools, right? Make sure, check me if I'm going to, and a variety of tools to use that either is an overlay or plug into that one. What's better? What makes them different from each other? What makes one strategy ahead of the other one? Am I on the right base?
Yeah. Okay. So
Yes.
getting started with ChatGPT, or any large language model, will help you with any other tools that come up next, because ChatGPT was kind of like the driver. A lot of others are very similar. So like Llama is another one. If you're getting familiar with those, it'll help make you a better prompter with the other tools. Like that's the key of it, is like when you get familiar with this, there are going to be more integrations, and that's going to be the cool thing is when these tools start integrating seamlessly with each other. That's like what I'm looking forward to. But getting familiar with ChatGPT, Llama, any of the LLMs right now is going to prepare you for utilizing those integrations later to their utmost ability.
Would you say that that's because their code is just stronger, like of the AI itself? Like they just have more intelligence behind their version of AI versus like a smaller company?
I'm going to say that, we all know that OpenAI, ChatGPT, they're backed by Microsoft. Google's coming up has their own. So getting with these companies, they're kind of the trailblazers. Anybody that comes after them is going to be a copycat. Like, there's always that first to market, right? And everybody else tries to emulate who's first to market. And then if somebody makes something better, that's great. But, there have been, OpenAI and Google and Amazon, they all have access to so much more data to train these models. And so I think that's why they're the ones. Sorry, I'm hogging this question,
worries.
guys.
I do have some thoughts on that too. Where some of these tools are going to really come out and be helpful is that some of them are pretty specialized, and they've utilized the same models, but they've trained them either on their own data set or they've already done the prompting work for you. For example, Jasper, it has all these widgets where you can use this widget to generate Facebook headlines, this widget to generate LinkedIn posts. They've already done a lot of the prompting work for you, and so it makes it a lot easier. Plus, they'll be trained on different data sets. So for example, Jasper runs off of GPT, but GPT was trained as a general data set. So what they did is they fine-tuned their own model of GPT, and they gave it the top converting headlines, the top converting descriptions, and they fed it all of their data and started fine-tuning the responses. So then it makes it so for paid media, it helps speed it up, versus Write Sonic is more of a general copywriting tool, where it's more focused on helping you generate long-form content rather than the shorter content that's higher converting. So some of them are going to have different purposes, and they'll do a lot of that work for you, and then they'll also fine-tune the models based on their data.
Let me answer that with one more on that one. Scott, just remind me on the Write Sonic one. One of the features that my team really loves about Write Sonic on the email, we have one client, as an example, that does 3 emails a week, right, to a fairly too small of an audience, then you should be sending 3 emails out a week to. So one of the big problems they struggle with is, how do you make sure that you're not duplicating the content and that value is there? So what you wouldn't have with, say, a ChatGPT or one of those that's just open, Write Sonic actually has settings that you can have it not only learn what data to pull from, right, but you can also tell it not to repeat itself. You can also give it a time frame to make sure that it's checking its previous subjects and topics to save you have to remember, oh, what did I send out in beginning of first week of June, email number 2 for the week, right? To make sure that there's no duplicate, to make sure it's not overlapping. So there's those types of things that those software and platforms will do on top of actually just doing the work that is, like you said, a duplicate of the prompting, right, of the systems and tools that are out there, but they overlay some advanced things that, that are valuable to marketers. Does that make sense? Yeah. Eli, you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, looking at Futurepedia, where it has the 4,000 plus AIs in there, the technology, and 90% of them on the back end is the same. A lot of them plug into the OpenAI technology, and then customize it for their own. So the question of which one should we use, the market's going to decide which ones are going to last. Like SEMrush has been around for a long time, Ahrefs has been around for a long time, but there's been 1,000 others that have come and gone, and it's us in this room that are going to decide which ones stick around, and it's ultimately going to come down to not the technology, because it's all shared, but the type of data that's in it and the usability of that tool.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a question like around, probably not, a question sort of around AI systems. But when you're creating your system, how are you, sorry, I wrote this down. How have you updated your systems and processes to reflect how you're using AI? So like, for example, I manage our web content strategy. When I get information from my product development team, it's amazing, but it's in a format that I have to reformat before I can use it with any AI tools. And it's like pulling teeth to get people to change their format. So I'm curious how you guys are changing your systems around it.
Makes sense. Who wants it?
What format is it in?
They have like PowerPoints or just like random stuff and have like an Atlassian system that we use. But like honestly, I need it in a Word doc.
Okay.
So yeah.
Are you able to output it in text format, or?
I mean, I do. I copy it. I have to like reformat it because if I just dump it into like GPT, I'll like create my own fact sheet. So like for new product launches, like to help create the assets quicker or get to like a starting point quicker. So like, hey, it's like an initial web copy, initial email copy, we can edit from there. But it's like this whole reformatting process that takes time.
So
It's avoiding the button pushing.
if it's in Microsoft tools, I'd recommend you talk to JJ Stedman over here, who knows macros like the back of his hand. Maybe he can help build you a macro that just pulls it into
JJ, can you raise your hand?
something. Raise your hand, JJ.
There you go. That's JJ.
But maybe there's something like that can help automate that first step anyway.
I also, like, so this is totally spitballing. I make no promises about if this will work or not. And it also depends on what kind of information's in that PowerPoint. But I might try GPT-4's code interpreter to see if you can output it to a Word doc and see if you can automate it that way.
Trying that today.
It's
Yeah,
so
definitely
cool and
trying
weird.
that today.
We'll also see some of those pain points be alleviated here soon, because all the companies are building it into their systems. So I know Microsoft's building it into their platform. Google, they just barely released it on the business side. Their labs for their AI within Google Docs, the Google presentation, all that. So we're going to start to see companies embracing it and helping ease some of those pain points too.
Go ahead, next question.
I'm Steve. I'm the one guy that did not raise his hand when Eli asked how many have used AI. So forgive my ignorance here a little bit, but when, let's say in the interest of company proprietary information, if I expose my data to a tool, a chat or an AI tool, what risks am I facing there that my information can be stolen?
I was going to say, you just got back from the conference about
Yeah, I was
data,
about
so
to
you
say,
should talk.
Shay, this is you.
So honestly, I think we don't fully know yet. Like, we know that months ago, somebody from Samsung put some proprietary code in it, but I haven't seen any follow-ups to like other people took Samsung's code and then this happened type of thing. So I think it's kind of like there's danger, but nobody knows how much danger or how bad it can be at this point in time. So I think that's why there's all the caution, like, because we don't know. And the unknown is the scariest part of like how big it can blow up in our face.
I would approach it safe and secure is probably the better way to go, like webcams in the 90s.
And I think that's why so many of these companies, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, are making these, like trying to keep it so that, make the tool so that you can keep it within your own, Microsoft calls it tenant, but like environment, so that all the data is already there in those tools and you're just sharing the data between the tools, which is really all the data you need anyway, in addition to your outside like analytics type of thing. So I think keep an eye on that, and that's why they're racing towards this, because they know that's where this is going, and that's also where the money is for them.
There's also a lot of new models coming out that are going to be run locally. So for example, Llama 2 that was just released by Facebook. It's a big model that actually, it's not quite as good as GPT 3.5, but it's almost there. and it can run on your computer. So if you have a graphics card, it can run locally on your computer. So we'll also see the emergence of local-based AIs. So you'll be able to install the AI onto your own computer. The data doesn't go anywhere, but it just lives on your computer.
All right, guys, this is the last question, I promise. So as I've been listening to you guys, and just all of us, I think we're at very nascent stages of AI. Things are changing so rapidly, and there's almost an overwhelm of how do I keep up with the tools, with the models, with everything, right? And so you have two perspectives. One, to be a generalist that knows a little bit about everything, and even that's becoming impossible, or become more narrow. So what are your perspectives regarding curation of AI tools? And how do you keep from being overwhelmed by all the tools and whatnot? Because at some point it becomes ineffective. And maybe the last part of that question would be, as you become a thought leader, not a practitioner, because a lot of these tools are tactical in nature, do this faster. How do you transition from being just a tactitional person, right, to being someone that is actually a thought leader using these tools? So sorry, that's a loaded question, but it's a lot in there.
Should we have Alex answer the first one
Yes.
while you type it in? Then we'll answer the second one while Alex is computing. Who wants to take the second part?
All right, so the first part of that question, I will give it to Alex, but let's synthesize that into a question that's going to give us a short enough.
Let's see your prompting skills, guys.
Okay, I mean, this is what I would put. There are so many AI tools. As a marketer, I don't know where to start without getting overwhelmed. What do you recommend? Something basic like that. Does that answer it, Albert? You feel like the first part? Okay.
While it's coming up, I can.
You got 30 seconds while
I can answer that. Alex is going to take about 30 seconds to answer that question. But for me personally, it has been overwhelming. Like the fact that I brought up a new AI tool. Well, actually, it's AGI, which is the evolution of AI. A new AGI tool just came out from Microsoft this morning. And it's called Gorilla, published by Microsoft, and it's AI plus it has free reign, where it can go. You can ask it to do what you want it to do. It'll figure out the code. It will go to Google. It will go you can ask it to buy you a plane ticket, and it will go figure out how to buy a plane ticket for you. You can say buy the lowest plane ticket to Hawaii in December. And it will go ahead and figure that out. It'll use the logic, it'll figure out the cheapest tickets, and it will book you a ticket in December. So that type of stuff is coming out here real soon, but it's been exhausting to keep up with this. I generally just plug and unplug. So I about check in about every month, do a quick search, see if there's anything groundbreaking in my industry of what I'm trying to pay attention to, and then I unplug for a little bit.
I'm going to give you a short analogy on that one that's going to date me a little bit, but my first computer was IBM PS1, PS2, and I've been in the digital space forever since then. The answer was always, since I was a kid and I was probably, 12 or 11 back then, right, when I got my first computer, and the answer has always been, I wonder if computers can do this yet. I wonder if it can do that. So what I would encourage is just look at it as use the tools to find the platforms and the prompts that are out there. And as you come across those problems, just keep pushing it, right? That's how we got as far as we did with everything that computers can do today and why we're all sitting here. But we did that all the time. It's like, oh, I wonder if it can do this yet, or I wonder if it can do this. And about 90% of the time we'd be disappointed it didn't do it the right way, or did it wrong, or how we didn't want it to be. But every single time you went there, you found out a little bit more, right, and it moved a little more forward. I would, similar to Scott, approach it the same way. But it sounds like Alex has a lot to say on this topic. So April, I'm going to turn you over to, let you read Alex's response.
Yeah, and I think she heard you better than I did, because the answer really is kind of summing up a lot of what you asked and then a lot of what has been said. So it is overwhelming, there are too many options available. But first and foremost, identify your marketing goals. So as the generalist, or as even more a specialty, if there's a specific piece that you're trying to identify that you want to get better at, or that you want to sharpen, then identify what those big priorities are, and then determine what specific areas of that strategy you want to improve, and then automate it using AI. Research and evaluate, look for the tools that align with those goals and needs, read the reviews on it, compare the features, consider the factors like how easy it is to use, the integration ability, and customer support. Then start with a few key tools. Instead of trying to implement everything that we talked about today, instead of trying to become the expert on every one of the platforms that we talked about today, or every one of the tools that are available, or trying to even keep track to be on top of it all the time, like Scott does, because that is a rat race, then pick the things that are going to help you the most and become the best expert in those, or use them until you feel like you're getting better at it. Then test and measure everything. So implement what you're doing with those tools, and then test what you know against it so that you know that it's giving accurate information. And then her last is iterate and expand. Based on the results and the feedback that you get, refine your approach, refine your prompts, refine what you're doing so that that gets sharper.
This looks just like a great SOP or something you could share from an executive or a business perspective on how your companies are going to utilize AI, right, to unlock some additional budget, some additional resources, right, as you're looking for key company tasks, key marketing roles. And as people ask, as executives or clients ask, what are you going to do? What's the role in AI for our specific business? This looks like it's well thought out for that type of review. And Wes, you owe me $5 for saying SOP in this meeting.
I think it's also important to remember. So I think one of the reasons ChatGPT is like the one we all think about is because it can do so much, right? It's one tool, it's one simple tool that if we get really good at it, there's so much output we can get from it. And I think that's kind of the rule of thumb as we get into, there's so many tools, how do we not be overwhelmed? My go-to for a lot of things when it comes to getting overwhelmed is, what's the next right step for me? What's the next right step that I need help with, and can AI help me with that? And then also, how much time will it save? Will it increase revenue? Will it increase conversions? And that type of thing, and judging it from that way, because there's no shortage of things it can do and things that we can try, but it's also like, what's gonna move the needle? What's gonna drive like really good actions and processes for us? And I think it's important to come at it from that angle, and then it helps you hone in a little bit more on like, if I could figure out this and save out 2 hours of my time so I can do this, then that's worth learning type of thing.
Perfect. Okay, so if we have more questions, I know all of our panelists would love to hear from you guys. I would love to hear from you. I'm available on LinkedIn. You can find me anywhere and reach out, and we'll share everything with you. But I wanted to thank everybody for coming, and just let you know that Tuesday, August 22nd is going to be our next Lunch and Learn event. And if you are not already on the Slopes new platform and have not joined the marketing chapter, then please do so, and we'll share all the information with you. But thank you guys so much for showing up and for sharing with us.